Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Eleonora Salas. I'm the Director of Studies at ICANA Binational Center. Thanks to the support of the US Embassy, a group of committed and hardworking English teachers are sharing their expertise and best practices during these challenging times of remote teaching and learning. All these teachers are alumni of US Embassy-sponsored professional development programs. We hope these presentations will inspire all teachers to continue seeking to improve how they teach and expand the tools they have at their disposal. Our deepest thanks to all the alumni presenters and the US Embassy for their support in the organization and delivery of this teaching capacity building program. I would like to dedicate today's webinar to the memory of Professor Elba de Bat, who passed away last night. Participants from Córdoba probably remember her as a dedicated teacher, trainer, and professor at Facultad de Lenguas, National University of Córdoba. She was also a teacher here at ICANA, our binational center, and the director of cultural affairs for several years. We remember her dearly as a caring and passionate educator who made a difference in the ELT community of Córdoba and touched the hearts of all her students. Thank you, Elba. And now I would like to introduce our presenter for today's webinar, Integrating 4 Skills in Our Virtual Classes. Eduardo Germán Gimenez is an ELT specialist from Corrientes, Argentina, where he teaches at several secondary schools and teacher training colleges. He completed the online advanced certification in English language teaching, ACE program, offered by the University of Oregon from 2018 to 2019, thanks to the support of the US Embassy, Buenos Aires. He will share his takeaways from the first course he took, Foundations in ELT Methodology, and how he has risen to the challenge of integrating the 4 skills in his virtual classes. Thank you, Eduardo, for sharing, and you can start.
Okay, thank you very much, Eleonora. First of all, I want to thank to the U.S. Embassy, and in particular to Noris Ferda, who is a great mind behind this webinar, and also to you, Eleonora, for your support, and Mariano also, Mariano Escudero, who was a great technician, trying to solve all these issues in connection. Well, I want to share my screen. Well, first of all, I ask you that you go to menti.com, go to this site, and with this code, ask this question: where are you from? I give you 1 minute for you to enter this site, www.menti.com, and with this uh, with this code, write where are you now. Okay.
While people are answering, let me tell everyone to please ask your questions when Eduardo finishes and use the question and answer section of the Zoom meeting.
Okay, here we can see. Uh, well, welcome to Buenos Aires, welcome to Córdoba, welcome to Jujuy, Tucumán, Santa Fe, Santiago del Estero, San Martín de los Andes, welcome to Lomas de Zamora, Neuquén. Let's see. Well, we have teachers all over Argentina. Yes, I can say Romania. Well, welcome to Romania, Bariloche, Egypt. All right, welcome to Egypt, India. Well, um, I can. Okay. Well, let's start with our presentation. Our presentation, as Eleonora said, is integrating the four skills in our classes, in our virtual classes. So, due to the pandemic situation, now we have to move from face-to-face classes to virtual classes. So here we have to adapt our planning to synchronous classes because we are in front of a student to asynchronous classes. My connection is very so there we go. There we go. It's loading presentation. Let's see. So, oh, sorry. Uh, okay. Well, so this is done. This is already done. Well, a pinch of theory. I want to share with you uh, not only uh, my experience, but also the reason that justified what I'm going to present. So we are going to remember some things that we have already studied. Ferdinand de Saussure, that is regarded as the father of linguistics, and he has a key concept of linguistic sign. Linguistic sign is composed by a signifier and a signified. When we talk about signifier, we are talking about an acoustic image. So there is a sound in our mind, stored in our mind, and this sound is connected with an idea. And this idea is represented by an image that we call signified. So we have we have three drawings, and in this case, these drawings are matched with this sound in our mind. So then another concept that will be important for this presentation is genre. Genre is a type of spoken or written discourse and can be classified by content, by language, by purpose, or by form. When we talk about form, we are talking about structure or layout. So spoken written genre can be letters, reports, story, invitation, emails. And uh, spoken genre can be presentation, interviews, or informal conversation. Okay. Now, I want to know about your style. So, do you believe in direct instruction or do you believe in learning by context? So, do you believe in giving information, giving content for students uh, that will be in deductive approach versus learning by context? So, uh, new words are conveying meaning by the context. So here we have inductive approach. So I wanted to go again to uh, menti.com and you tell me you tell me uh, is your style more connected with direct instruction or your style is connected with learning by context? Okay, so I can see that most of you are into learning by context in your teaching methodology, in your teaching didactic. Okay, well, okay, so most of you strongly believe in learning by context. So I wanted show you just a video, and you're going to tell me, those who are attending by Zoom, in the chat box, uh, what does the girl said. So the situation is at the front door of an apartment, and the girl is talking to a boy, and I want that you tell me, what does the girl say?
Eduardo, we can't hear. It's like frozen.
Yes.
We couldn't hear.
Yes. But can you catch any part of the video?
No, I mean, we can see the video, but we cannot hear.
Okay. All right. Yes. Um, well, it's a video. In fact, it was tricky because this video is spoken in German. And can you tell from the images what was the situation? Can you write on chat, please?
Try to share with audio.
Okay. Okay, now, was it better or was it the same? Okay,
No, we cannot hear, but anyway, since you said it's in German, the important thing is to guess what's going on.
okay, okay. Well. The purpose of this video is that sometimes we think that when we learn by context, just knowing the situation and some words we can convey meaning from this basis. But the fact is that sometimes uh, someone, especially not only students but also teachers, are lost because we can convey a general meaning, but we can precise the details. So I'm going to present a kind of sequence, and in this sequence, we are going to uh, try to work with the four skills. So the target group is classes in the school run by state. It's asynchronous class, so it's not face-to-face, but something that you set and then students respond, and it's more than one class. So you know about the didactic triad that is composed by teacher, students, and content. So teacher, I refer to teaching, so it's methods and techniques that teacher plan in order to present some content to students. Then students experience the that content with some activity or exercise. An assessment show how well or how bad that experience, that whole experience result. So, first of all, you set a topic. This topic is connected with genre. The genre can be spoken or written. So any topic is connected with a genre that we have seen, for example, letters, interview, presentation, essay. These genres are established by social practices. So we have to bear in mind when we set a topic, student interest, And our purpose for that topic is that students gain confidence dealing with a kind of genre. So I choose as an example the past, talking about the past. Okay, so in secondary school in Argentina, we have a topic that is to present or to practice the past tense, the past simple. So we have the first step, relevant signs. We have to collect signified from students. You remember that linguistic signs have signifier and signify. So signified is the ideas or concepts that are relevant connected with that topic. In our case, past simple. And the first activity that we ask to our students is that they send us pictures or drawing about what they did yesterday. Okay, so with all those pictures or drawings, we are going to create a Pictionary. The Pictionary is a game, yes, and here we play with Pictionary, dictionary. So we are going to create a Pictionary with all those signified that were provided by students, and then we are going to recording how you pronounce those words. So here the first step is to avoid to use L1. Why? Because students will provide significant ideas for them connected with the topic, the past simple tense, but they are not use words in their L1, just images that represent that idea or concept. And we are going to show them the words in the target language, and also we are going to record, yes, so we are going to provide them audio with those words that they need, words that are relevant for them, connected with the past simple tense. When you use the recording and when you create the Pictionary, try to use numbers or letters in order that they can follow, yes, the association between images and words and sounds. In the second step is modeling genres. So now that the student know in the target language what are the words that they need to produce, the genres that you expect to them to produce, you're going to provide alternatives. So at least two texts. And also you are going to record in an audio that text. So they have a model of what you expect them to produce. And with that model, that two or three texts, they are going to play the imitation game. In the imitation game, they have to replace all the words that are relevant for them in the text that you model. So they choose one of the two or three texts that you provided, and there they have to replace with their own data that text. And they have to record that text. So in the second step, you provide them a model of the final production. They have to replace that model with data that is relevant and that is true for them. So they have a model of the final production, what we expect them, what we expect the student produce at the final of our teaching. In the third step is interaction. So the student have a model with their data and a recording of that model. And in pair work, they exchange the text and their recording. So here you also have to, first of all, present how to make questions, because comprehension activity is that you have a text and then you have some questions to answer. But here, they are not going to prepare a questionnaire on their own text, but on the text of their mates. And here you can also show them how to make an informal conversation. So you have a text, a recording, and you work in pairs. You ask them to work in pairs. They have to make questions about the text of their mates, and they have to prepare an informal conversation. After that, you have communicating, the fourth step. So here you show them how to make negative sentences from affirmative sentences. So they have to report coincidence between their text and so he or her text and their mate text. And they have to record that production, the new production. After that, in fifth step, you have practice. So in practice, you have pairs who have produced a text of coincidence, and then they will share that text with other group, another group, and they have to produce a worksheet. So a worksheet developed by students, where it can be questions of or charts about true or false. And the aim of this step is that they find someone who. So they find a coincidence between two groups. So, all in all, in these 5 steps, you have teacher-students, you have teacher-students interaction in the first step, when you build the vocabulary necessary for the task, the final production that you ask the student. At this step, you can provide a worksheet with a listening comprehension. So you gave them some pictures and a recording, and they have to, for example, tick whether the word is pronounced or not, or a sequence of action or a sequence of words. In the second step, you have teacher-student interaction. Here, you teach affirmative sentences in simple. This is not real writing, this is not real speaking, but is a rehearsal. It's a rehearsal where you work with the first person of the discourse. So they are going to write a text copying a good example, a text that is complete, that is cohesive, that is coherent, but it has their personal information. So facts that are real for them. In the third step, there is student-student interaction. Here you teach questions and they are going to practice. So they have to read the text of their fellow mates. They have to listen the text of their fellow mates, and they have to produce questions about that text. So here you work with I and you. In the first step, you have student-student interaction, and then student-teacher interaction. You teach negative sentences, and it's a kind of practice because they have to write, and now students collaborate in order to produce a text that previously they have written copy. So this is the model, and you also, when you teach, provide a model, and there this is writing and a real situation of writing. And they have to record that is still not a real situation of speaking. Finally, they have to share, so they swap between pairs the writing they produce, and here they can use affirmative questions and negative. Why? Because with the worksheet that they have to produce, they are going to practice not only affirmative questions, but also negative. And here we can produce uh, using we. So as you see, there is um, there is a process, and in this process, you add not only grammar, but also you consider the participants of the discourse. Okay, and that's it. That's it. The framework. Here you have further information. You have some sites. You can send me an email and I can share with you the presentation. And okay.
Eduardo, I have some requests about raising the tone of your voice, but well, we know that there is an issue with your connection.
Okay. Uh, yes. Uh, well, um, tell me how can we follow because unfortunately the I can I cannot raise the volume, yes, from my computer. So I think that it's a problem of connection. Eleonora?
Yes, I realized that there is an issue with your internet connection. I hope most of the participants could hear. I could hear here in Cordoba. There is a question
Yeah.
from one of the participants. How can we work with interaction between students virtually? I guess this participant means what happens in the synchronous class. You have been dealing with all these activities for asynchronous.
Asynchronous. Yes. Uh, well, uh, may I ask where is she? Where is she from?
Um,
Or where is
yeah,
he
let
from?
me see. Mhm. Um,
So,
I don't have the name. Mhm.
all right, all right. Listen, um, there is, as it was a problem of audio here with me. So, uh, there is also a problem with connection. So, um, in face-to-face work is easier to deal with the four skills. Yes, because it's um, a situation like the face-to-face in class. But the fact is that there are some states that here in Argentina, for example, uh, just half of the students are connected with these virtual classes. So most of the students don't attend or are not attending classes in virtual. So um, this framework is was thought in order to deal with that asynchronous mode. So you set an activity, and then the student have some time to uh, present or hand in uh, the activity. In face-to-face, you have different solutions. For example, in Zoom, you can have the plenary, so you deal the class with the whole class, and then you have room so students can interact in pairs, in groups. But for example, I'm using a Jitsi Meet, and Jitsi Meet, um, you can't, for example, use rooms because it hasn't. So it's just an interaction of teacher student, student teacher. Yes, you can. It's a video conferencing, but you have chat, and you can raise your hand, and you can show your screen. But for example, you don't have whiteboard. So it depends uh, on the device that you are able, or the platform that you are able to access. But not only you, also your students. Okay, because for example, I have inconvenience with Jitsi due to internet, because it depends also on time. Yes, at this time of the day, internet is busy, very busy. So the connection slow down enormously. So it's the problem of the last mile. Leonora?
Thank you, Eduardo. There is another question.
Yeah.
What can be an effective way of assessing students' writing in this virtual space?
Uh, Very good question. Very good question. Because I present you a direct instruction. Why? Because you're always scaffolding. So you're presenting a model and then you ask to repeat, to copy, yes, that model. But remember that teaching and learning is a process. So teaching and learning is a process. So this is recursive because you present, for example, in example, past simple tense with yesterday, but you can do the whole process again with last summer, last week, last year, okay? So you can do the whole process again. You can have a loop or a recursive way to retake all the previous experience. So you can adapt and you can adapt to different levels. Maybe the Pictionary is not something that can be possible, for example, in B2, but I refer to secondary school in Argentina, okay, when schools run by state uh, don't don't get that higher levels of English proficiency. Uh,
Okay. Mhm.
yeah,
There is another question.
yes.
How can we test listening skills through online teaching practice? And could you please suggest some ways to conduct this effectively?
Um, in the presentation, always they have to write, they have to record themselves. And one of the problems that I can see in face-to-face classes is that, for example, who is the audience when you write or when they speak in class? When students write or when students speak in class, who is the audience? So the audience is the teacher who is going to grade that work. And we lost a great opportunity that students share their work. So when I present this sequence, they have to share not only their text, but their recordings. So they can work with that recording. And I think of comprehensible output. So that you don't receive a recording and just answer some questions, so you receive a recording and a questionnaire, but you receive a recording and you have to produce a questionnaire about that recording. That is a way to to check or to assess comprehension. Yes, because uh, you are not going to answer someone else's questions, but you have to spot the key concepts in the text that you are listening to, and you have to produce questions about that key concept.
Thank you, Eduardo. There is another question.
Yeah.
What do you think of inverted or flipped classes?
Um, all right, I don't have a lot of experience in that, but I think that this is a good way. Um, I remember I remember one professor that tell us, listen, in first year of medicine, you have to look through microscope and you have to recognize tissue. Why one student can recognize and why the, the other or another cannot? Okay, and the question is simple. The one who recognizes the teacher is because he studied at home. So he's prepared to spot on what he's looking at. And the one who can't recognize is because he doesn't know what is he going to see. So in flipped class, you can say, well, okay, look at this video. As I told you, look at this video that unfortunately you can't see. And the fact is that the one who have a knowledge or just an advice of what they have to see, they are uh, was prepared to provide the right answers to the question, what does the girl say? For example, if I told you in advance that the video was in German, if I told you in advance that it was about the dinner, if I told you in advance. So if you have just a hint of what you are going to do, you are best prepared to respond than if you just look for the sake of looking.
Thank you. And there's one more question related to the sequence of all the activities that you designed for your classes. How much time did the whole sequence take, and how many classes did it take?
All right. Broadly, it's 5 classes because, for example, you ask something and you give them um, just for the next class, or even here in Argentina, for example, um, classes in virtual classes last 1 week. So teacher asks something, and you have to respond, or you have to hand in next class. So you can have a week, okay? But there is others that they have, for example, twice a week. So they ask to hand in from one time to from one class to the next. So maybe they set a task on Monday and they ask to hand it on Wednesday. On Wednesday they have. But it also has to do with the load of the work they have to do. So maybe the first step is easier and simpler. You can put just 1 day to hand in. For example, the fourth step or the fifth step, you give them 1 week or more, or 10 days. So it depends. And as I told you, as it's a recursive process, maybe the first time that you do the whole process is longer than the time when you start the process again.
Okay, thank you, Eduardo. There's one more question from Gonzalo. He asks, what has helped you to design successful classes integrating the four skills? And how would you describe a successful class?
Well, uh, we start from the end. In final exams in public school or in the school of language, students are asked to produce a letter, a description, a composition, an informal conversation or representation. So they are asked different genres, different types of genres. And I always think why they fail, why they fail in final exams. So I remember in one presentation that says, well, students are successful in passing exams because we train them to pass exams. So the idea is that a successful class is when the students can get what you expect them to get, or they can produce what you expect them to produce. So, if as a successful goal for them is to write a letter of complaint, they have to practice. And that practice means that they have to do not only once, but many times. Why? Because as I told you, uh, genres are established by social practices. So why you know how to talk with someone else? Because you practice a lot. So you know what is the layout, what is the sequence, what are the features of that talking. Okay? How do you know how to write an essay? Because you know the layout, you know the patterns, so you know how to develop a text. Why? Because you practice, because you did it not only once, but many times. So successful can be measured by uh, how many times you practice, how accurate your text or your production is close to native production. Another thing that I always ask myself, why students use a low rate of language use compared with the high amount of language that we expose them. So students are exposed to a high amount of language, just say vocabulary or syntax, and they use very little of that high amount of language that we use as input. So this difference about the amount that they use and the amount that they are exposed to let me think that we have to increase the experience or the possibility that they can use that language, that syntax, that vocabulary. And again, that is a result of a recursive process. So again and again, going back to the starting point.
Thank you, Eduardo. It's iteration, as Diane Larsen Freeman says. Thank you very much for all your insights. I hope everyone feels inspired and has found takeaways that you can apply in your virtual classes. And please Try to join us next week, next Tuesday, with Romina Maracita, who will be presenting motivation and attention in the virtual classroom. Thank you again, Eduardo, and thank you, all the participants.
Thank you.
See you next week.
See you on Tuesday.